Well, hello there. Uh, I had something going through my head all morning because when I woke up, a little bit after I woke up, I'm trying to do the Jeff Bezos thing, which is like putter around in the morning and not look at any screens. Like just get up in the morning and do things. And then later on, read stuff. It's supposed to be good for your health and for your mental health, memory. Um, yeah, I should try that. But my habit is to read stuff when I wake up. Um, and so I look at my messages. A friend who's into conspiracy stories sent me a video, very hard hitting video about Gaza, which in general was full of, really horrific clips and fairly true, but, sensational. And, I kind of like, I'm not going to watch that. And so I looked at the content producer on Rumble, this guy. I'm not going to name his show because it's nonsense. They're basically neo Nazis. I don't know if I can say the word properly and not get in trouble, but, neo Nazis and white supremacists, so on and so forth, those kind of folks. And they're into the great replacement type of stuff and you know banker conspiracies, the Rothschilds, you know and they make statements like they're talking about something that's fairly true. One could say, yeah, that's a fact, and then they say something else. So some a little bit of truth plus a bit of bullshit equals income on Rumble, I guess. So it's very hard to tease apart the truth, but it's said so emphatically and sensationally that you can't take your eyeballs off of it. And so people get sucked into these kinds of things because they're emotionally satisfying. Uh, they tick a bunch of boxes that people might have intuitively or their common sense. Sounds about right to me. And these people are fairly rhetorically talented and eloquent. And as I said before, emphatic speech is very, effective. And so people listen to it and they get drawn into it. And before you know it, this little niche channel that's basically neo Nazi and white supremacists, uh, bunch of real out there people, and throw in the trad stuff and the religious fanaticism and that kind of stuff, and you've got another really messed up bunch of noise. And I don't know why they sent that to me, maybe just to bug me. But it got me thinking about, well, for example, somebody says that uh, Jewish people own all the real estate, or most, 90% or 88% of, New York City real estate or something like that. Well, this is a claim one can fact check. You can go look at the top 8 or 10 real estate holding companies or REITs, real estate investment trusts, or whatever, in the city, and you can find out, if there are any Jewish people involved with the companies. Maybe the founder, 50 years ago was Jewish or something like that. It's like, okay, maybe some of them have Jewish people in them. So what? And then you look at, the history of the company. They've been bought and sold by different other companies. And then you look at the shareholders, right? Are they all Jewish? Hell no. And are all the hedge funds and all the banks that are invested in these REITs, are they all Jewish? No. So it's just nonsense, to make a blanket statement like that is so silly and shallow and stupid. But to some people, it makes sense, and you can point to one or two or three or four or five individuals Kushner, Kushner, and therefore it's the Rothschild, conspiracy story. And I don't say theory because there's hardly any evidence behind stories. They're just stories, narratives, whereas a theory might have lines of evidence involved with it. So it's irksome, it's bothersome, it's annoying. It's really sad. And there's so many channels with people that are very popular, even Joe Rogan, people like that, where you really don't get much good information out of it. The gurus, podcasters talked about Joe Rogan the other day. They did a good job there, I thought. But anyhow, it's bothersome. So I was thinking, that formula, a little bit of truth plus bullshit equals, a fan base or clicks or likes or advertisers or something on a platform. And it could be a platform like YouTube or Rumble or Odyssey or any of them, really. Yeah, it's bothersome. You say apples grow on trees, and trees are all satanic, and then you tell a story. So the first part, apples grow on trees, is obviously true. You can figure that out for yourself. It doesn't take that much effort. You don't have to dig into it. You don't have to do any math or science or anything to figure that one out. And obviously, I don't know, then you have to decide, are trees satanic because of Adam or something, some biblical story, whatever it is. Or you could say that any kind of things like that, a little bit of truth, a little bit of fiction, and it equals people watching your garbage. And the amount of stuff they sling, BS they sling in 20 minutes or an hour is amazing. And they go from one truth claim to another truth claim that can be debunked. But if you went through the whole video and tried to jot down all the places that sounded untrue or overstated or BS or whatever, it would take you hours to do that. And then you would go in and debunk each thing. And who cares? Nobody would listen to you. They don't care. I mean, anyone could do this. That doesn't sound right, let me look it up. And like I said in the last video about, falsification or just looking for disconfirming evidence, they said this, well, let me look for evidence, or let me look for some narratives or commentators or reviewers or whatever, academics, that argue with that or demonstrate through various lines of evidence that it's false, right? Prove it wrong. And do this even with your own beliefs, if you can have the discipline to do that. Like, why do I believe this? So I'm going to try to disconfirm my belief. I'm going to look into it and see if my thinking might be wrong. I mean, it's very hard to do, but anyone can do it if they wanted to. So there's just so much noise out there. I want people to be careful when listening to these people. It may be a little niche that you're interested in. It doesn't have to be so nefarious or evil or anything as some of these organizations are. Neo this, neo that. But, it could be some subject that's relatively innocent, but you could be learning the wrong stuff and thinking it's the truth, thinking it's factual. And that can be a terrible waste of time. And also, if you do know people who are neo this or neo that in your community, and you want to have good faith conversations with them and challenge them on their truth claims or fact checking them or whatever, begging to differ with their philosophical perspective or whatever, at least you know what you're talking about and can gently suggest that they look at this, that, or the other thing, or tell you exactly where they got their information and where their lines of evidence originate from. Because so many times, people just pick and choose. They cherry pick something from somewhere and then weave it into a story that's completely the opposite of what the researcher or the journalist or the writer or whoever was actually saying. And it's pernicious. It's out there all the time. So you have to really guard against it. People are making up stories. People call themselves filmmakers, and all they do is they take clips from other films and content without the music so they don't get any copyright claims. And they edit them together with a voiceover and, spin a narrative that's totally false. And I'm not going to name those films because they're terrible, and I don't even want you to look at them out of curiosity. There is good information out there, and it's not hard to vet good information. You'll have lots of people citing the content. You'll have academics and researchers citing the content. You'll have critics talking about the content. You'll have people pushing back who come from different ideological or philosophical backgrounds or worldviews. And there'll be a discussion there that's fairly honest and earnest and in good faith. And you'll be able to understand multiple points of view on the subject and find out where you stand, what your opinion really is. So be careful of that formula, right? A little bit of truth plus a bunch of bullshit equals salacious, exciting stories equals, money, viewers. Don't get sucked into it. People look at these channels and they say, well, look, he's got 100,000 subscribers or whatever. Must be good, must be interesting. Some of those subscribers could be really into the content. Some might just be there out of curiosity, or they might just all be lunatics, conspiracy story addicts, or they might be bad actors or people who have really warped and sick worldviews. But just because they have a niche, 0.000125% of the population believe flat Earth or whatever it is, doesn't mean that that niche of 5,000 people, it doesn't make a worldview, just like deniers in climate or other areas. There may be some, but the vast majority of people have opinions that are either extreme or moderate or, the consensus view. Or, in climate, for example, there are like mainstream views, stories you can tell on CNN. There are views that are more alarmist. People call those doomer views. And then there's denial, and then there's kind of like a mainstream type press release content. And to really understand what the scientific consensus is and whether we should be alarmed or whatever, you have to dig into it a little bit. And you have to look for those lines of evidence and who's producing that research and how they're interpreting it. You have to do a little bit of work. And then you might figure out, well, I'm a moderate, or I'm more on the alarmist side, or I'm a denier. And you'll understand your reasons for being so. And then you can have a good faith conversation with somebody about what you think. Okay, so have a nice weekend. William T. out.